Hi guys, it's Preston from Preston's 8 Legs. Today I want to go over with you the different type of enclosures and the different type of environments that tarantulas come from. So here I have my Grammostola porcripes, which is Roman, and he is a terrestrial tarantula, which means that he is a surface-dwelling tarantula that will make a burrow into the dirt, and he'll live in that little small cave or burrow and then venture out of it when he needs to eat. But most of the time he'll spend his time in there sleeping, staying safe away from predators, but he will venture out to get his food. Or if his food is unlucky enough to stumble across his entrance of his burrow, he'll snatch out of there and grab his next meal. The other type of tarantula that you can have is a fossorial tarantula. And a fossorial tarantula is a tarantula that lives below the dirt again, but they live deep in the dirt and they hardly ever come out. And the only time they will come out is if a prey item does come directly to their entrance and then they eat. Other than that, these fossorial tarantulas don't ever come out. And what's kind of sad about it is that a lot of times fossorial tarantulas are some of the most prettiest ones. They're the most colorful, or they're the most fascinating looking, but you just don't get to see them. But I don't have any fossorial tarantulas, unfortunately, but I do have quite a bit of terrestrial tarantulas, and this is one of them. So as you guys can see here, he has made a couple of holes, and then he has dug around to the side here. He's actually dug around the back, and then he has dug down and over to the sides here. And this is basically underneath here is when he spends the most of his time. And as you guys can see here, this is Roman, and I actually did a video housing him in this enclosure when he outgrew his old one after he molted. And when a tarantula molts is when they shed their old exoskeleton and grow their new one. And as you guys can see here, he molted again. This is his molt right here, and then he is down here just hardening up. And I haven't taken it out of there yet because from what I have read and what research has shown is that the molts, after they have molted, the old molt provides a lot of hydration and vitamins to them, and that's key to the benefit of the tarantula when they molt, because it's a very exhausting process to shed their old exoskeleton, harden up, and make sure everything's fine with them. So I always keep it in there, that way he can always use it for extra hydration and extra vitamins and whatever else he may need. So this is a tarantula cribs medium slider enclosure, and the reason why I choose tarantula cribs is, one, is they're the only enclosure company that I could find at the time when I first started keeping tarantulas that was dedicated specifically to tarantulas. And they really are. They're an amazing company, and they make a very good quality product. They make these enclosures very durable, and as you guys can see, very crystal clear. And they put a lot of thought into them, and if something's not right, they do take care of it very quickly. I've spoken to the owner a couple of times, and he's constantly thinking of something new for the enclosures and constantly wanting to get better at doing these enclosures. They've been in business for quite a few years now, and they're based in St. Louis, Missouri. And like I said, they're just a great company that makes great products. I've had other enclosures before that I've gotten from the breeders that I have bought my tarantulas from before, and there's just nothing like these tarantula cribs enclosures. I like that they're super durable, they have plenty of ventilation, and they have these locking sliding lids that have these rare earth magnets at the top. And let me just boot you guys up here. So all tarantula cribs enclosures have these locking magnetic lids with these rare earth magnets in the back. So this one's a slider, so that means that this lid just kind of slides and and it locks in, and that is a super strong lock to it. Obviously, because I'm a human and not a tarantula, I can pull it pretty easily, but it is locked in very well. So there's no way that a tarantula is going to be able to open that up unless it's not seated properly. But with these, it's very easy to tell. And with these, they have a wide variety of types of enclosures. They have terrestrial, fossorial, and arboreal. And the difference, like I said, between the fossorial and terrestrials, basically how they live in the dirt. Now, terrestrials will have their holes here at the top and maybe a little bit further down, but mainly here at the top, so that you can put the dirt in quite a bit and you can let them burrow deep down. Fossorials will have the ventilation up even higher because you want even more dirt in there because they burrowed pretty deep. And then arboreal enclosures will be less wide and less deep as these enclosures, but they'll be more taller than these types of enclosures, and they'll have the ventilation come more further down. I have a small arboreal enclosure here. This is a small cylinder tarantula crib, and this is for like a arboreal sling. This is what I had my Caribbean versicolor in, and this is another great enclosure. Like I said, it has the ventilation holes that come almost all the way down, so you can put just a minimal amount of dirt in there, because arboreal tarantulas really don't need a whole lot of dirt, because most of the time they're up on the twigs or the leaves or the branches that you put in there, just like they are in the wild. Now with this one, this is obviously not a sliding lid. This is just a take off, take on lid, but these still have the same type of magnets, and because it has this little cutout, you know exactly how the lid goes on. So you just put it on there and go, and it's locked on, and it's a very good locked lid, and there's no way a tarantula's gonna be able to pop that off very easily. And what's nice is that if it does not go on properly, you'll know about it, because you can see here, it just won't slide in because the magnets are repelling each other. So you can know very well that that lid is not on properly if it's not seated just like that. What's nice about tarantula cribs as well is that they have these ventilation lids at the top. So they have, this is a standard for the cylinder ones, and then the terrestrial lids and slider lids will have just this amount. Sorry, it's a little dusty. They kick up a lot of dirt. Right here, oh, hi, you can see me. Right here, you can see all the ventilation holes here at the top. And this is a standard type of lid, and then they have a max vent lid, which has holes going all across the top. And that's for a tarantula that you may have that needs a more arid environment, that doesn't want to keep the humidity in. This is just standard that you can have with a tarantula that needs the humidity, or you can have a tarantula just as kind of regular. Not all tarantulas are super specific about the humidity that they have. You obviously do want to keep an eye on the humidity that they are living in, but some tarantulas, and most of the ones that I have, aren't too specific on that. So these are tarantula cribs, and before I end this part, I might want to say I'm not sponsored, obviously, by tarantula cribs at all. They didn't pay me. They didn't ask me to say any of this. I'm just showing you guys the enclosures that I use and why I use them. So next, I'll show you some of the other enclosures that I have used in the past, and I'll tell you, what's good about them, what's, not great about them, why I don't use them anymore, and why they can still be a very valid option for you to keep your tarantula in. Okay, so here is the other type of options that you can keep your tarantula in. Kinda. So this is the type of enclosure that Jacqueline came in, and you guys can see in the video where I housed her, my jumping spider, you guys can kind of see this enclosure in the background. So this is just like a deli cup, I guess they put the jumping spiders in, because they're kind of small. It's just a regular deli cup, and then they put some, looks like cocoa fiber, and I'm not really sure what else is in the bottom there as a substrate. I mean, jumping spiders are a arboreal type spider, so you don't need a whole lot of substrate, but this is just not that great. But luckily she wasn't in there long. And then they put this little branch here so she could jump and climb, and then it has this type of lid here, which it has these holes, as you guys can see, but because jumping spiders are pretty small, they put this little wire meshing at the top here. Now, I would say that this would be a okay option for a tarantula enclosure if it didn't have this wire meshing, because the problem with the wire meshing is that it has these little tiny holes in it, and tarantulas and a lot of spiders have these little claws at the end of their feet, and that's how a lot of times they actually climb. And when they're climbing, if they climb on the lid, they can get their the claws stuck in these little holes here, and what can happen is if they lose balance, or they lose grip, they can actually dangle and their arm can fall off, or they can hurt themselves, or they can be stuck up there and they can't get down because the claw is hooked. So I just don't ever suggest these. Now you guys can probably see, if you guys do look around, there are Exoterra tarantula enclosures out there, but they may have a mesh or wire lid, and that's just as bad in my opinion. You want a solid acrylic or plastic lid so that they can't, when they're climbing up on top, there's nothing for them to hook their claws in and get stuck on. But if you have a tarantula or type of spider that fits in here, that doesn't go through these little holes that you guys can see past the wire meshing here, this is a great type of enclosure for just beginning. I would suggest that you put some ventilation down here on the sides with like a little needle or something. That way you have cross ventilation, because you do want the air to be going across and in and out. That way you have plenty of air going in there and it doesn't get stagnant. Now the other type is this type, this little vial, I guess you could call it. This is what a lot of my tarantulas actually got shipped in. Now the breeders sometimes say to keep them in here because of the size sometimes, but I do get tarantula cribs sling enclosures, so I don't keep them in there. But you can keep the tarantula in here because it does have little ventilation holes up on top here. And then if you guys do want, you can put little holes here on the side with a pin needle again. And this is basically just going to be for a sling, probably no bigger than my thumbnail there. And you're going to want to be very tiny because they're not going to have a whole lot of room to move around in here. But if you do have a very, very tiny tarantula and you don't want to lose them, and you're worried about the ventilation holes being too small or too big, this is a great option, because then you don't have to worry about that, and you can keep an eye on them very well and know that they're eating and they're drinking. And then this is just another smaller version of that, because I have gotten tarantulas even tinier than that. I've gotten tarantulas about the size of my pinky nail beforehand. And how they ship these guys actually is they stuff it full of this sphagnum moss, and then they make a little hole, and then they put the tarantula in that little hole of sphagnum moss, and then that way during shipping they can't bounce around and hurt themselves. So that's kind of like the packaging of the tarantula. But this was a tiny little tarantula. I'm not even sure which one came in here. This might have been Julio that came in here, my Brachypelma hamori, when he was just a little tiny sling. He might come in here, but I did not keep him in here very long because I had another enclosure already ready for him. And that was this one right here that I got from another tarantula breeder when I bought some other tarantulas from them online. And this was like a little starter kit enclosure that they had. And it's just a little acrylic type case that's nice. It has these little holes here in the corners, and it has these holes here on top, and it was nice. It was for how small these tarantulas can be, sometimes it's a nice little option. This is probably, if you can't get a tarantula cribs, this is the best type of enclosure I would suggest to get for your tarantula, because you can keep an eye on them. It's the proper size, it's pretty durable, and it's probably the best thing all around. So that's pretty much it, guys. There's a lot to choose from when it comes to enclosures for your animals. And for tarantulas, there's quite a bit to choose from as well. Like I said, there's Exoterra, which is glass a lot of times, which I just don't like, because if anything does happen, it can shatter and then cause harm to the tarantula, or it can cause harm to you. And then it has a mesh lid sometimes, and that's just not great. So there's a lot to choose from. There's a lot to choose from based on the type of tarantula that you have, the size of tarantula that you have. There's a lot of options out there, but this is basically just what I have used and what I do use now, and the reason why I use them, and some other alternatives that you can get in case you don't want to get a tarantula cribs, or you just can't afford to get one, because that's the one thing I will say, tarantula cribs and other tarantula specific enclosures can be a bit pricey. And I understand that sometimes people just don't want to fork out a fortune for enclosure right away until they know exactly what they're doing. But in my opinion, the money is worth it in the end for the betterment of the animal, but you can always work your way up to that, and there's no problem in that, and there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you guys again for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I know I didn't put out a video last week. I apologize. It just sometimes work gets in the way, and I just lose track of the days, but I really do enjoy doing these videos. I love reading you guys' comments. I love seeing the likes on the videos. And now that's not the reason why I do these videos. I don't do it for the likes and the subscribers. If I can't say I do it for anything, I do it for myself, because I really do enjoy doing this. I love sharing my hobby and my passion with you guys. And I do also like doing it for the comments. I like just reading, what you guys have to say about them. A lot of times some of you guys will say, how much you guys love the spiders, or you guys have seen spiders out in the wild and you have a fascination with them. I love reading that. I love just seeing that, and seeing that people have a passion of spiders and arachnids as well. Thank you guys again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day. Bye.